The ApoE4 gene predicts dementia, but does it have to? No. Correcting this one simple blood test can help gauge your risk of dementia. We all know that chronically high blood sugars lead to diabetes. You might not know that Alzheimer's is often called type 3 diabetes because it too is linked to high blood sugars. Scientists have been looking at the connection between high blood sugars and the pathology called tau proteins known to be present in Alzheimer's brains at autopsy. Tau proteins have long been described as trash in the brain. Excess energy found in the brain gets turned into these, and when you get piles of tau proteins, you end up with amyloid plaques, also known as the disease pathology linked to Alzheimer's. Scientists have delivered drugs to the market that dive in and destroy these tau proteins. But sadly, it hasn't reversed Alzheimer's. So why don't these drugs work? They remove the tau proteins. Why isn't the patient better? I think we've got to move upstream. So let's take a look at how these tau proteins linked to Alzheimer's end up in your brain. The answer is fructose. And instantly, patients say, "Don't worry, doc, I don't eat high fructose corn syrup." But even if you've never eaten a dab of fructose from fruit or table sugar or that high fructose corn syrup, there's a secret fourth source of fructose that's endogenous to our brains. And yeah, I didn't know about it either. So let's go inside the brain and take a closer look at how this works. Notice how this patient does have a high circulating glucose and only a few fructose. There is very little fructose in the circulation right outside that blood-brain barrier. But the glucose in high concentration was easily lifted over the blood-brain barrier to supply energy for the brain. This has stumped researchers for years. They knew that those tau proteins were linked to fructose, but how was the fructose getting in there? The answer? Glucose converts to fructose. Hang with me. In the setting of high blood sugars and high brain sugars, that glucose is being converted to fructose. Yes, it's endogenous. And the higher the production of the fructose, the more of these wasteful, nasty proteins will be found throughout the brain. Take a look at this picture. It is just sickening to look at these nerves filled with the trash, the debris that leads to a brain that's not holding on to memory. When that brain cell dies, it leaves behind one of these piles of tau proteins called beta amyloid plaques. And if you wait until these problems are all throughout the brain and ask a drug to remove it, yeah, it wasn't working. Take a guess how high a blood sugar was needed in order for the stimulus of fructose to happen in the brain. I was shocked to find out 120. So how do you measure your fructose? Well, that's where the puzzle gets a little more complicated. We can measure glucose with a finger prick, but we cannot measure fructose in the blood or the brain. Here's my example, and I work really hard to control my blood sugars. I'm about to start my fast. It's Sunday afternoon, and our family is playing a board game. There's a few fruit on the table, and I decide to have a few bites of it. Look how high my blood sugar got from a few bites of fruit. So I take the first bite of fruit somewhere near 5 o'clock. It takes me till 7 o'clock at night before that blood sugar was back to normal. A continuous glucose monitor does allow you to see when your blood sugar goes up and down, and it might feel nearly impossible keeping it under 120 when you stare at this thing. A better answer is to look at the byproduct of excess fructose, and that is uric acid. Not only is uric acid a much longer target, it takes a lot more time to get this number to where it should be, which is as close to 4 as possible if you're trying to prevent dementia. Be careful when you're checking that uric acid. There's all kinds of rules based around this, and we'll explain that in a different video. For now, I want you to know that this is something you should follow. If you want to dive deep into this subject with me, my brains course is the best answer out there. Check it out, and I'll see you inside.